Hey there, friends, adventures, and
Good morning, a bright morning. Kama dawa tuko hapa kukuamsha kila siku asubuhi. Ni saa 12 za asubuhi. Hapa ni Morning Cafe. Karibu sana. Hotter than your coffee. My name is Freddy Ndimuli.
Jina langu ni Stanley Nyarungita. Throw that duvet away. Ni siku ingine ya kuona a bright new day. Today we discuss matters law as well, changing into matters law. We'll be telling you all about that. But then behind us, we'll call it the photo of the day because mwenye alichukua hii photo
alienda shule.
Alikuwa amekula chapati.
Sema picha imeenda shule. This photo tells a lot of stories. Like 20 stories in one. One, the president has arrived in China. Angalia tu hiyo imposing image of the Kenya Airways, the pride of Africa plane.
Yes.
Imejaa pale, full photo pale. It looks very nice.
Yes.
Then, hii picha unaangalia pa symmetry. President, First Lady, hapo nyuma kuna jamaa mwingine, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga accompanying the president. Yes. Alafu wote ni kama waliambiwa peani space, hii picha lazima watu watatu waonekane. Then, look at how the president is dressed. Very relaxed, hana pressure.
Yes. Some jeans pale, Air Force.
This is his first trip out of Africa since I think May, and he's this relaxed.
I'm telling you.
Wow, picture of the day.
Yes.
All right.
Tuangalie what to expect.
So we'll be discussing that and a lot more with my panelists. State of the Nation, Joe Mutambu, Jude Njomo, former MPs for Mwingi Central and Kiambu Town, respectively. James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, and Ruth Ambogo, who's a lawyer and a member of the DAPK party. They'll be in studio for that conversation. You had mentioned earlier that you'll be talking about treatment.
Well, before, towards the tail end of the show, bio-ripple treatment in maswala ya skincare routine. Skin Reveal Aesthetics Medical Spa. Esthetician Milka Wambui will be helping us understand that.
Na unataka kutuambia vile siku hizi skin routine yako imeshika.
Mimi nakwambia siku hizi. And risk of being a loan guarantor. Either your friend, family member anataka kuchukua loan anakuambia, you know what, si ukue my loan guarantor. What are the risks of that? We'll also be discussing the rights of you as a guarantor. Ruth Tanu, she's an advocate of the High Court, will be helping us to dive into that. Tuangalie now the dailies. Push that got Kuppet to end teachers' strike.
Yes.
Is the big headline on the Standard this morning.
Finally, the teachers ended their strike yesterday, but incidentally, some schools had started sending children home because the strike had really persisted. We'll be coming back, and of course, photo of the day on the front page of the Standard this morning. Win-lose deal that ended tutors' strike, and an image there of the TSC chairperson Nancy Macharia with this union leaders, and sijui kama ni mimi tu lakini ukiangalia nyuso za hawa watu they don't look so happy.
Whatever meeting was happening prior, haikuenda vizuri.
They were not very happy.
The same conversation still on People Daily.
Now this is the chaos.
In chaos as unions strike. They go the headline that you're talking about.
Yes, schools had already started sending children home because hakuna walimu.
Alafu tena unaambiwa
imagine ile uko na psych umefika home alafu naomba strike imeisha rudi.
Ama ulikuwa umefika kwa stage. Mzazi akakwambia hata usirudi. Shika pesa urudi.
How the wealthy rig out youth in tenders. That's the front page of the Standard today. Matters agencies failing to meet the rule to about 30% of procurement bids to disadvantaged groups. Those are youth and women.
And so Matters devolution. You have the physical paper of the Star. We'll be telling you about that. Kwenye gazeti la Taifa leo, afueni mgomo ukifutwa, masuala ya elimu na viongozi wa
angalia hizo nyuso, angalia huyu jamaa hapa And this lady here, they don't look so happy. I'm told one of the officials stormed out and said, "Yosi deal." Anyway, that's Gazette La Taifa Leo. Ruto seeks to unlock China loans after 5-year freeze. Yes, a photo of the day there. The president disembarking from Kenya Airways' choice of travel. Hakuna tio marafiki walipeana ndege sijui wapi. Kenya Airways is a choice. The pride of Africa. Yes. Picha imeenda shule pale.
Into regional matters. Now listen to this. This the words of the education minister there, who is also the first lady. She says, feed your pupils milk and also eggs. Really big on matters proteins, animal proteins as well as plant-based proteins. And Asema, the first lady, says in a bid to improve the nutrition. This is in Uganda. You know, we've not told people where we are.
This is the Daily Monitor in Uganda. Watu wanaweza shanga first lady ametokea kasema ni Intel.
In a bid to improve the nutrition of learners, especially those benefiting from free education, the feeding should be made better by packing them food to school. It's interesting how matters education has revolved around in Kenya as well as in Uganda.
Yes.
Like in Uganda now they have a different twist.
You know, now the good thing is that in Uganda, the education minister, akisema kitu yoni, it's as good as law. She's the first lady. Janet Museveni amesema,
yes,
watoto wakule maziwa na mayai. Now,
wachana tena education kwanza.
Kuna mambo hapa chini. Yesterday, now ladies decided in Uganda that ile protest ya Gen Z likata on corruption.
Wacha tutafute a new twist.
A new idea. Yeah, so they decided to go nude on the streets of Uganda.
Yeta Kenya tuko tumefikiria.
Topless. Sasa you see now the challenge it presents is that police came out, wakaona sasa watafanyia nini?
So wanatembea
wakarudisha mkono nyuma hivi, so they had to go back and get a special contingent of women police officers to come and arrest them. Lakini now when women police officers came, waliona mambo. Walichuna hao. You should see the photos online. And then the other challenges for reporters and the Daily Monitor has managed to do, because now how do you report this? How do you put this kind of photo on the front page? You've seen this. The cameraman must have been very careful here not to capture the nudity and ensure that the nudity is covered. Now you see on the other daily in Uganda, that's walishindwa kabisa kutumia hiyo picha. They were totally unable to report on this because how do you use that photo?
Labda so tumia photo ya police, and then you write the story.
You write the story, but you see you've not captured the story. The story was that there was a nude protest.
So, imagine ukifanya package hiyo.
Yeah, package. Which images will you use? Ngumu sana. So the New Vision decided to go with corruption in Parliament. Yes. You see, those women were protesting against corruption in Parliament. So then they decided, okay, fine. 177 MPs asked to refund allowances. Kenya wanaweza rudisha kweli. Per diem will be recovered from legislators' pay. Straight. Hakuna enda ucalculate rudisha, no, takata tu.
I'm curious if this also reflects to the speaker. Anita Among. Because the Ugandans
Anita
are really
could
saying,
be among them.
I see what you did there.
Meanwhile, Museveni is not traveling to China for the China-Africa Summit.
Ametuma
Vice President Alupo. Na ndio huyo hapo amefika China, anasalamiana pale. Hapa juu, I think this is the same gentleman who was cremated in Mombasa. That one. Patel.
Yes.
He's also, yes, in Kenya we call him Mombasa Cement Titan. In Uganda it's called Tororo Cement Titan.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was honored in Uganda as well. Over in Tanzania.
Simulizi maisha ya ajabu ya mganga.
Sasa unajua masuala ya waganga na ushirikina ni Tanzania.
You never see some of these headlines in Kenya, ladies.
Even in Uganda you don't see them talking about waganga. In Tanzania though, front page. Simulizi maisha ajabu ya mganga. Ni yule anayehusishwa na mili ya watu iliyofukuliwa kwenye mashimo. Viongozi wa vijiji na majirani wafunguka tabia zake, ikiwamo kujitenga. Lakini kama ni mili imepatikana pale, si tu shakahola bado.
Same script, different places.
Kauli za DC aliyeenguliwa zazua mjadala mkali, masuala mengine zaidi hapo. Alafu kinachoitafuna Tanzania wafundishaji lugha ya Kiingereza. Hapo amekubali. Inawatafuna.
Mnaambiwa darasa leo tunasoma algebra.
Sema hapana mwalimu.
Moja unakata zaidi ya moja.
Magoti mekata, acha nirudi nyumbani. On the front page of the Citizen, why uranium mining has yet to take off in Tanzania. Tanzania could finally start mining uranium after the completion of a strategic environmental assessment, which is expected to commence in the near future in Nyerere National Park. Infrastructure, mining, progressive discussions on the front page of the Citizen. Let's come back home and take a look at traffic situation in Nairobi.
Being a Tuesday, jana tuliona some traffic ikiwa nywe.
Yes.
Lakini pale Pangani interchange ilikuwa imeanza kushikana. I don't know how today is.
Yes.
Makadara ishaanza.
Yes, it's building up slowly at Makadara next to Mbotela. So Jogoo Road is building up at this time. It's already about 10 minutes past 6. So Jogoo Road busy kama kawaida. Ukiingia town pale, Haile Selassie Avenue is not looking as busy. But that, with the confusion that schools have created, now that the teacher strike has been called off, some students had already gone home. This morning, they'll have to go back to school.
Yes.
So traffic could be built up around this area because this is where most matatus are. Landis Road 2 building up slowly, so is City Stadium roundabout. Yes, the Pangani interchange also beginning to build up slowly. Watu wa Thika Road na Kiambu Road siku hizi hawana pressure. Ni kama hakuna pressure. Used to unaamka unapata jam imefika huku survey.
Imeanzia survey hadi hapo.
Sasa ni kama siku hizi wamejua timing. Unaingia town baadaye. Tuangalie upande wa chini. Even around Nyayo Stadium on the expressway, it's building up slowly. I don't know what's happening there. But now, because kuna ile unaingia hapa nayo, you can get into town very fast.
Mombasa Road looking new as well.
Nothing much. Siku hizi Nairobi hakuna traffic. Ama ni mimi naona hakuna traffic siku hizi. Ngong Road 2 looking good. Tuangalie ile pale Nairobi School. Mwisho, basi, yes. Nairobi School iko, it's building up slowly. After Kangemi, just before you get to that interchange at ABC Place, it's building up slowly because of the bumps, but nothing much to worry about. So that's the traffic situation this morning. Tuangazie maswala mengine.
Tuangalie weather and see if you're going to be leaving the house. First off, if you're in Makueni, 19 degrees Celsius right now. It's going to be cloudy past the midday, 28 degrees Celsius. Let's take a look at another place in Kakamega. Kule Kach. To know how the western region is going to be. 15 degrees right now as of 6 a.m. This is going to get warmer as high as 27, but then expect some light showers if you're in Kakamega, and this is going to increase into some average rainfall getting into the evening as well. Let's take a look at another place in Isiolo, to the north part of the region. North 19 degrees, but they say it feels like 23 degrees. This is the temperatures that you expect. It's going to get as high as 29. Bakisha kidogo tu ifike 30 degrees Celsius.
But by next week, it will be much warmer.
Oh, yeah.
Highs of 32. Hiyo ni joto. Unapima kama temperature ya binadamu.
And this shows a particular Africa climate report, which we're going to be taking a look at briefly. Another place in Nairobi, 16 degrees Celsius, and they show you it's going to be cloudy. Do expect light showers if you're in Nairobi and its environs. Drizzle kidogo, manyunye kidogo. So this shows you how you're going to prepare yourself this morning as you leave the house and what you need to be wearing when you do so as well. I had talked about that particular climate report, and this is according to the WHO, and this shows the past 60 years.
WHO. Ini World Meteorological Organization.
Sorry, WMO. Nimezoea sana WHO, World Meteorological Organization. They say over the past 60 years, Africa has warmed faster than the global average, as highlighted in the latest State of Climate in Africa report. You can dig into this, just showing you how things have been so far in the past 60 years. We'll also be trying to debunk for you this, talk about some early warnings for all. And speaking of debunking, this is in a nutshell of what to expect in our news diary, including President William Ruto's trip to Beijing in China and what to expect, as well as Azimio leader Raila Odinga and what entails in this particular visit. That among more in our news diary and news bulletins coming up later on. Right now though, today in history.
September. On September 3rd, 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed, bringing the Revolutionary War to its final conclusion.
Magazeti sasa, and of course we start off with the Standard. They've used the picture of the day there on the front page, and they say in China for business. President William Ruto, First Lady Rachel Ruto, and ODM leader Raila Odinga arrive at the Beijing Capital International Airport in China for the 9th Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit yesterday. Chinese and African leaders are meeting to discuss and strengthen Sino-African relations. That's there on the front page. But the big headline is push that got Kuppet to end teachers' strike. They say the boxed teachers will be expected to recover lost time after pressure from government officials, so union leaders accede to TSC's demands to call off the strike that had paralyzed learning and had some schools closed and candidates fretting over next month's exams. This is a big story given prominence on pages 10 and 11 of this paper. There's another one there. It says Standard Group shareholders okay 1.5 billion shillings rights issue. They've been facing some serious financial problems. Probably this IPO could give them what we call afueni. There on the top strip of the Standard, proposed law to shield new governors purge. IEBC is now proposing, because when it comes to impeachment of governors, there's no time limit. So IEBC is saying that any impeachment motion should just take 6 months to conclude.
And you're done.
Like now, Kawira Mwangaza has moved to court. That process could even take a whole year,
yes,
because there's no time limit. But if at all this is passed, then IEBC says 6 months. If the courts have not finalized after 6 months, whatever the senator decided stays. So in this case, if 6 months, if we go beyond 6 months, then Kawira Mwangaza stands impeached because the Senate decided so. Kang'ethe expected in U.S. court. This is a Kenyan, a 40-year-old Kenyan who murdered another Kenyan in the U.S. and he was arrested in Kenya and extradited back to the U.S. and is expected in court this week. Want a loan? These banks offer the best rates. That's in the Financial Standard, page 21. They tell you where to go for what loan. Nothing to smile about in Manchester, finally. But this guy is smiling. Eric Ten Hag, this is the back page of the Standard. You have someone who's smiling and he has no reason to be smiling at all.
I'm telling you.
Ametandikwa mabao kabambe, mabao tatu nyumbani kwenye uga wa Old Trafford Theatre of Dreams. Should be a theatre of nightmares.
Good thing this weekend we are taking an international break just to relax.
You need a break.
Because, oh yes, our mental health as Manchester United fans, we need a break on this one.
I say, look at Manchester United. Do you see anything to smile about? That's the question.
Do you know that reggae song?
Do you see anything to smile about? That's a Standard for you.
Oh yes. Let's take a look at another paper from the Standard to Daily Nation. Matters Education still making big news here. They say win-lose deal that ended tutor strike. And yes, as rightfully put earlier, TSC CEO Nancy Macharia of the centre and other leaders from the different unions who are wearing some gloomy faces. First off there, Kuppet Secgen Akilo Missouri, TSC Chair Dr. Jamlek Muturi, who's on the right, wearing that cap, and other officials yesterday. They talk about a back-to-work formula that was signed amid claims of non-fulfillment of teachers' demands.
Basically, none of the demands they were making were met. They were forced to go back to work.
Wow.
That's why their faces are this gloomy. I feel for them. I feel for them.
Right. And finally, for a long time, a photo that we haven't seen for a long time at the very bottom strip, the photo of former immediate President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, over the weekend, quite a number of leaders have been using his name in vain, if we can say. Kumbuka jana wakisema Raila, Kalonzo wapigania uhuru.
Wapigania uhuru. Kama walikuwa maumau.
Na si wapiganiaji uhuru, lakini wapigania uhuru. Na finally ndio amejitokeza kusema Uhuru's role in Raila AUC campaigns. Former President supports ex-Prime Minister Raila Odinga's quest to become Africa Union Commission Chair. His office said yesterday as it emerged that he was using his old networks to campaign for him. Wait to see how that will play out. And speaking of Raila, he's on the left strip. ODM attempts to support Ruto's re-election bid, matters politics. And they talk about if Raila clinches the chairmanship of AUC, his team will strike a 2027 political deal with Ruto.
So if he doesn't win, what happens? There's no deal.
So
if he wins, that means there's an alliance, there's a coalition come to into it.
Idilo nakanga fingers crossed study February.
Sema, you better make sure we win.
Wow.
You know, they've always been accusing Uhuru Kenyatta of not living up to the promise. So this time round, William Ruto, we've been here before. We better win.
The conversations on this front page, Paleju, they talk about man in 1.5 billion cash shillings Equity Bank heist, quote unquote, held in forest with lions and hyenas. Can take a look at that on page 10. The man pictured there is Peter Kimani Mashiri, who was the father of David Kimani, who is a prime suspect of that particular theft. Other conversations on the bottom strip, or the bottom, or the back page of Daily Nation. They talk about Adani sets up Kenyan farm amid push for JKIA deal, and we're anticipating this whole strike by the Kenya Airports Authority workers going strike to oppose. Oh yes,
they protested yesterday.
Yes. They say Indian conglomerate wants to operate the airport for 30 years despite growing domestic resistance. That, in a nutshell, is what is on this particular back page. Other conversations there, Kindiki Gazette's 10-member technical committee to oversee police and NYS reforms. From Daily Nation.
Let's go to People Daily. Schools in chaos as unions strike. They talk about what happened in schools yesterday. Exam candidates forced to study on their own and threatened to destroy property before teachers called off industrial action. So some schools had become a bit jittery, having students there with no teachers available. And the students were becoming rowdy and even threatening to burn down the schools. So they were told, endeni nyumbani. Then kabla hata wafike home, strike imeisha. Rudini shuleni. So it's not the best way to start your third term, especially as you anticipate to go do exams, final exams. CDF billions for dead projects. This is the front page of People Daily. They say auditor reveals that Kenyans obtained no value for money on projects which are abandoned or had poor workmanship with no cash records. And they have pictures there of a number of MPs. I guess these are some MPs from Yatta, Teto, Nyeri Town, Uriri, Nakuru Town East and Rarieda, where some of these projects have been abandoned. Na CDF ilegulwa.
And good thing about right now, the fact that there's civic education, you don't always have to wait for the Auditor General to give us a report. We can always go there on ground and say, haya, kuna kitu yenye Robert Nguye alisema ataweka.
And I get a feeling
hii bado haijafanyika.
Exactly. I get a feeling is that the Auditor General has just jumped onto that bandwagon. Because all Kenyans are just inspecting projects which have been launched or relaunched na kuja iko wapi project. So Auditor akakuja akasema hata mimi niko hapo. Ni ukweli hakuna. As a front page of the People Daily, let's take a look at the Star.
How the wealthy rig out youth in tenders. They say agencies fail to meet rule to award 30% of procurement bids to disadvantaged groups. Interesting. The Youth, Women, Persons with Disability Act as fronts of influential people. Coverage is on pages 4 and 5. More MPs are on the front page of the Star. Now, why are they here? They say political battles as MPs fight to take over as governors. And picture there, Babu Win of Embakasi East, Didmas Baraza, Kimilili, Geoffrey Osotsi of Vihiga, Senator, James Gakuya, Embakasi Central, who will be in studio today, J. Momanyi, Nyamira Woman Rep, K. Metito, who's a State House Comptroller, Mohamed Ali, Member of Parliament for Nyali, Mark Nyamita Uriri, Silvana Sosoro, South Mugirango, and T. Wanyonyi, Westlands, Member of Parliament. And
you notice quickly that Nairobi has the biggest competition. We have 3 MPs. Babu Owino, James Gakuya, and Tim Wanyonyi, all trying to unseat Governor Sakaja come 2027.
The conversations on the bottom there, uplifting urban poor, and they say not just roads, the Chinese lobby is building dreams. And the conversations there matters farming, young farmers in Kajiado embrace forage cultivation. And grab your copy of my Gov, usijali haulipi leo, because it's not for sale, the paper of The Star today.
Oh yes, The Star this morning, a free copy on The Star and my Gov. So kwanza my Gov hapo ukiangalia inside, let's pull out. Kuna picha moja interesting sana, the new CS for Treasury.
Oh yes.
Hapa ameshika shield na mkuki. Sijui anaenda ni national debt, anaenda kupiga mkuki na mishale.
And I love the new America hapo wamesema Mbadi aims at revenue target. Yes.
Okay.
That is the stuff for you. Let's take a look at another paper kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Afueni mgomo ukifutwa, anasema Kuppet yaahidi kutoa maelezo ya kina kuhusiana na mwafaka huo kwa wanachama wake baadaye juma hili. There's a lot of controversy on why did you call off the strike? Mwafaka sasa baada ya kikao cha kutwa nzima kati ya viongozi wa Kuppet na tume ya huduma wa walimu TSC yafikiwa walimu warejee shuleni, kwani mwafaka kuhusu mengi ya masuala yaliyozozaniwa umeafikiwa na pande hizo mbili. Lakini je, hizi ni sura za watu wameafikiana?
Nasema
sura ngumu, wamesema hapa ni kama walifinywa. Kile wanasema afueni. Vidokezo zaidi, Uhuru sasa ajitokeza kuunga Raila. It was a big discussion whether or not rais mstaafu anaunga Raila kwenda AUC. Tiba asili ya uzazi yazua hisia mseto. Wanasema wataalam watilia shaka tiba asili ya kukausha damu baada ya kujifungua.
Wow. Some traditional medicine. Yes. And it's interesting how in Kenya we always shy away from this traditional medicine practices, yet the same Kenyans would go for some Chinese traditional practices and yet to see them as very fancy.
Or even cross the border to Tanzania kutafuta services za mganga.
Lakini za hapa Kenya mnasema hii ni
atuamini tukiwa Kenya.
Mganga
Kwingineko bandari ya Kisumu mambo safi, usafirishaji pale juu. Aliyehusisha Joho na ulaghai ajipata pabaya. Na kwingineko Ten Hag adai ni nuksi inaandamana na Manchester United. Ni kweli, nuksi, mazingaombwe, shida zote ziko kule Old Trafford. Hatuna huruma na nyinyi. Asema kwa sasa hawezi kufanya miujiza, ila ana imani vijana wake watabeba mataji. Mataji gani?
Ama shida ni stadium. Mimi naona shida ni stadium. Imeitwa Old Trafford mpaka ishazeeka sasa.
Tuangazie masuala ya biashara. Asema Ruto seeks to unlock China loans after 5-year freeze.
Talk about Kenya Eyes, fresh debt for infrastructure upgrade, and they have the photo of the day because it is a picture that really tells a lot. Nairobi last signed a Chinese funding deal in 2019. So yes, today in this particular summit of African nations, which is happening in Beijing, we're going to anticipate on what is going to be said. Big on loans, when you see the president going there in China and facing east as well. We always anticipate matters loans. This is one of those conversations that watu watasema the fact that he's facing east. I remember he'd been asked that a while back, akaulizwa, is it east or west?
No, it's interesting. This thing here within months, umetoka White House, you're sitting with the US president. A few months later, after protest kiasi, uko China.
That says a lot.
It's interesting. Matters business. Let's take a look at the cartoons this morning as we wrap up this news review. And we start off with the Standard this morning, and yes, tumekuwa na viatu vingi sana kwa cartoons this week.
I think ni jana tu Gamzo also
exactly. So the big shoes, and that gentleman trying to fit in this big shoes as Azimio One Kenya coalition leader, and this is a caricature of the Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, who says he's a de facto leader of official opposition. but the shoes appear too big. He's struggling to fit in them. That's a cartoon on the Standard. Sio sisi tumesema ni cartoonist.
Tuongelee cartoonist mwingine. This has
Daily
to be
Nation.
Daily Nation. Adani, whatever's happening yesterday, and he's trying to paint Kenya Airports Authority his own colors. Alipata the airport ikiwa na its own colors. Now he wants to have the Adani paints.
Because definitely he'll be taking over from Kenya Airports Authority.
Yes.
If at all you're running JKIA. So wafanyikazi wa KAA hawajafurahia, mnatoa kazi. Surely.
Sasa kidogo andike ikuwe KAAA, Kenya Adani Airports Authority.
Bas,
Ka.
Your Daily Nation on the Star.
On the Star, I've been trying to decipher who this other gentleman is, but then this gentleman in the blue suit is Azimio leader Raila Odinga, and he's removing the pen there.
No.
Oh, you need
This
risasi
is
by the way.
this is a rifle.
Yeah, rifle, yes.
And unajua amekuwa
Ile
akisema he has risasi moja tu imebaki. Hiyo risasi moja ndo anaweka pale.
Anaweka hapo, yeah.
Meanwhile, this gentleman looks like the candidate for the same position from Djibouti, the other caricature there. So how will it go? The risasi and a point on ballot boxes. Kule Addis Ababa.
Ana aim pale kwa ile
EU ballot boxes. So akona risasi moja tu. Will he be successful this time round? That's the Star.
And finally,
People Daily.
There's
End of the road for corrupt officials. This is what they're saying. Can you reduce the size of the trap at a fee? That's what he's asking. He's asking them to reduce the size of the trap because it's too big and he knows he won't be able to fit in that trap. Wow. We've seen what the ESCC or the ODPP have said, that at least 40 officials from the counties will be arrested and charged with fraud amounting to about 400 million shillings. So probably this will be the end of the road for some of these corrupt individuals. So that's the cartoons this morning. It will make for some of the conversations here this morning, and I'm trying to trace my panelists. Finally, yes. Those are the panelists this morning. We do have former MPs Joe Mutambo of Mwingi Central and June Jomo of Kiambu. James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, who also features on one of the front pages, I think it's the Star. Will be in studio with us alongside Ruth Ambogo, a lawyer and also a member of the DAP-K party. Do stand by for these conversations after the break. And of course, you can always be part of this conversation through our social media pages and X at TV47 News and on Facebook TV47.
Oh yes, 22047 is our SMS number. The hashtag kama kawaida is Morning Cafe. Tuambie unatuwatch ukiwa wapi and talk to us. I'll be back later at around 8 a.m. to discuss matters law. And this particular morning we're getting to understand the risks of you becoming a guarantor and the rights that you have according to the Constitution. A conversation you don't want to miss. Anza kusave hizo numbers kwa screen sahi ya WhatsApp 0793 267 279, ya kutupigia simu 0795 864 745. Utuambie unatuwatch ukiwa wapi. We'll be back in a few.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those
Stay
who
tuned
defy the
to
odds and
TV.
break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
All right, welcome back. Good morning. This is the Morning Cafe, State of the Nation on TV47 with me, Fred Indimuli. Time for us to take a look at the big headlines this morning. Push that got Kuppet to end teacher strike is a big headline on the front page of the Standard. Win-lose deal that ended tutor strike. That's the Daily Nation. It's the same headline, Matters Education on the People Daily this morning. Yes, finally, the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers ended their strike yesterday afternoon, meaning that normal learning resumes in all the secondary schools across the country this morning. Before that, there had been a bit of jitters in a number of schools, with some even sending home their learners. But now this means that they'll be back to school today. The other big news, of course, President William Ruto arrived in China yesterday, accompanied by, among others, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. That's a photo on the front page of the Standard, and I think it is the most used photo. It's also on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. In studio this morning, we're privileged to have Bwana James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North. Karibu sana, Bwana Gakuya.
Thank you.
You are also on the front pages of the dailies this morning on the Star. Can we get the front page of the Star on the screen? Yes, and they talk about political battles as MPs fight to take over as governors. James Gakuya there features prominently alongside Embakasi East MP Babu Owino and Westlands MP Tim Wanyonyi in the race to succeed Governor Sakaja. There are other MPs across the country who would seek to occupy the county positions, but in Nairobi it would appear that there's a lot of interest in unseating the governor. Bwana Gakuya, tell us more about this. Is this an indication that Governor Sakaja will be a one-term governor?
Thank you, Edemori, and allow me to salute the viewers wherever they are watching us from. And coming to your concern on the gubernatorial race for Nairobi, what I would say is that these positions are people given, and therefore, as much as you comply with the set procedures, then you qualify yourself to be a contender. And politics is ambitions and interest to serve. And it for sure I have served this city for almost now 25 years. And having served for this long term, I don't think that there is anything that is magical that can deny me chance to contest for gubernatorial. And therefore, what I would say is that the sky is the limit. Because at any given time after 5 years, we have the cycle for elections. And there has to be contenders either way.
Yes. You feel it's time for you to move to another level after serving as MP for
the time comes and time grows. Yes, the time has come.
Okay.
Yes. And this does not mean somebody is being forced to exit, because the bell will ring at some stage.
Okay.
And all positions will be declared vacant. And once they are declared vacant, it does not matter whether you have served or not.
Okay.
You just face those other contenders with their blueprints. And then it is now a Jiko's choice to determine whom to be either elected or elected.
Okay. And this reminds us of what an activity that the UDA party was engaging in, the grassroots elections for a few months back. And one wonders what happened to that, because there was a lot of competition, especially in Nairobi. You versus Governor Sakaja on who becomes the UDA point man in the city. What happened to that process?
One, let me say, the process was very cordial right from the beginning, but it became tactical when it arrived to the level of the county elections. The elections started from the level of the grassroots all the way to the constituencies, and were very well and smoothly conducted. But when the elections arrived to that level of the county level, then there was a big hit, and the party intervened. And I think the party had its choice. I can't be able to determine what happened, because elections was postponed 3 times. And there was no enough reasons to postpone those elections.
Were the results ever conclusive?
It has never been concluded, because no single date has been set. But we believe that, in fact, since the whole republic elections are not complete, we hope the deadline is December this year, and anytime soon, probably the election board will call for Nairobi's conclusion of that process, because the process is not yet.
Yes, but we've seen that in the meantime, a lot has happened within the party. The Secretary General was ousted. Now we have an acting Secretary General, and did that affect the process as well? Because we know that Cleophas Malala was right deep into this grassroots elections process as well.
Obviously, the answer is yes, because the former SG has his own hand, and he was very influenced to his position was very influential in terms of delegates. Today, now that that position is no longer in Western, it's now in Mombasa. The result might be different in case we come to the level of the NEC elections, because obviously the chances of the SG positions is at the final level, where you have the party leader, the deputy party leader, and the Secretary General. And at that particular space, then it tells you politics that actually could give Western a chance to retain the Secretary General may not be possible. It may turn otherwise.
Okay. And if we could stay with that position of SG, if you could compare between Cleophas Malala and Hassan Omar Hassan, who's now the SG of the party, we've seen this new SG come out and speak against the deputy president, against the deputy party leader of that same party. And that is an indication of a lot of problems inside the party. What do you feel about that?
One, let me say that, in fact, it is not fair when a Secretary General of the party can just wake up and start condemning his deputy party leader. And with a few number of days after his appointment to that position, it tells you then the man has a bad motive. And what I can say is that probably the SG can be used by other Gachagwa's enemies just to spoil his name. Though I can tell you, the pronunciations that he was lamenting was quite fake to me, because he was saying that there is no what you call president. And there's no single day that the party had a co-president, not even at the level of the governing level, where the president equally has his own mandate as a president. But Gachagua has been always at the level of the deputy president. I couldn't be able to see his backup of this particular allegation. But as a politician, I was just assessing the situation, and I could be able to learn to read some mischievous along there. Right. This also depends on who put him to that position, and what were their main intention. Noting that deputy president is a deputy party leader, and he was not invited to that early morning meeting of the NEC, which appointed the same SG. Yeah.
All right, party politics will continue making big headlines. Remember, before the protests, both ODM and UDA had embarked on very ambitious grassroots elections across the country. None of the parties is yet to complete that process. Things changed. I think Kenyans forgot about that. Now, a lot will change going forward, but it could affect even the choice of candidates come 2027 as well. And yes, that's the story that's given prominence on the front page of the Star. They talk about political battles as MPs fight to take over as governors. The choice, especially for UDA, on who is the point man in Nairobi between Bwana James Gakuya here and the current governor, Johnson Sakaja, could determine a lot on who ends up being the candidate come 2027 for governor UDA party. And they will try to see if their influence will be able to carry the day as well. Political battles as MPs fight to take over as governors, and this cuts across even in counties like Kisii, where the current South Mugirango MP Silvana Sosoro also seeks to unseat Simba Arati as governor of Kisii. We have the same in Vihiga, Senator Godfrey Osotsi trying to unseat Wilbur Otichilo. Allow me to introduce to the panel this morning Bwana Mutambu. Joe Mutambu is a former MP Mwingi Central. Karibu sana to this conversation.
Thank you very much.
You found us discussing matters party politics, but I will not engage you on that. I want us to move on to the issue of teachers briefly before we get to the China trip and some politics even from Nyanza. Education has become a big discussion point. Yesterday we saw the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers call off their strike. But if you look at the faces on the front page of the Daily Nation, I don't know if you have a copy. Someone please get Bwana Mutambo a copy of the Daily Nation on screen. You look at the faces of the union members there, they don't look happy. And on the Daily Nation, they say win-lose deal that ended tutor strike. Push that got Kuppet to end teacher strike. Basically, Kuppet did not get what they were demanding for. They were just forced to end their strike. If the faces are anything to go by, teachers are still not happy. Is this the way to handle teachers, even if they are in school?
Well, that's a $1 million question, whether teachers are happy or not. Two, this is not a new scenario to us. We've been to this before. It has become a norm that this is a daily routine for the teachers to go on strike every year and then. The question is, have we addressed the issue, or do we normally address the issue when teachers go on strike? Do we only get some either threats, they will be sacked, and then something happens, or do we have officials sitting down somewhere with the government and strike a deal for themselves or for the teachers? So those are the questions which are surrounding the whole thing since this quagmire started. The quagmire of teachers going to strike has started, which usually affects the learning of our children. So when I call it a $1 million question is that as those issues been addressed, and will they be addressed so that we see a system whereby it is not pushed by strikes or by threat. It's a system whereby if whatever has been agreed is implemented, if it's going to be implemented gradually, that when it gets that time, right? Whatever has been agreed, it picks up automatically. It's like your phone. When you don't have credit, you don't call. So you don't need to call somebody to go to strike. You have to put money on it to operate. So likewise, the system must be so clear that I don't have to go to strike for me to get my rights, right? It should come automatically. And all these negotiations, they did not start yesterday. They started with the previous regimes. And when they are not honored, that is the time when the teachers go to the strike. Why are we not honoring as a government? Why are we not honoring what we are promising our people? And you know, the teachers and nurses and soldiers, policemen in this country play a very vital role to our lives because it is teachers who shapes us to where we are. It is doctors who take care of our lives. It is soldiers and policemen who take care of our security. So why are we not giving that a priority? Why are we letting it to have a discussion when the strike has been called? Those are the issues which need to be addressed. And once that is taken care of, there will be no more issues.
Yes. And of course, education being one serious sector, the biggest spend in the budget, 650 billion shillings upwards. This is just one of the symptoms of an ailing sector. We have other examples, the university funding model, where students, led by the leadership of the student union at the University of Nairobi, were out on the streets yesterday. They've condemned that model and said they will not go back to class until it's reviewed. There's still the issue of JSS teachers, the issue of CBC implementation. Where do the JSS go next year? There's a general feeling that there's a mismanagement of the education sector. And I'm asking you as a member of parliament because I know, is it last week or the week before, there was a special kamukunji in parliament to discuss issues around elections. And this was a ray of hope for many Kenyans that finally the House of Legislation, the National Assembly, has taken up the matter and probably will get some proper handling of the education sector. Are we anywhere towards better management of our education? I know MPs really discussed CDF and whether or not CDF should be amalgamated, but is Parliament seized of the matter in as far as management of education in Kenya is concerned?
Thank you, Adimori, and coming to your concern, let me say education is the key pillar to drive the country's growth. Since you need to have literate people who can be able to articulate things and who can be able to make studies, who can be able to make research, and who can be able also to achieve the goals of their desire using the knowledge. Coming to that, I would say that in fact, as we stand, I would say no serious measures has been taken to make sure that education is proper and in control. Because those uncruded small battles are very key to our runners. One issue to do with JCC, it seems we did it haphazardly because we implemented it without have already set up the whole infrastructure. At some stage, it was under the jurisdiction of secondary school. Later, it was decided otherwise to be under the primary primary schools jurisdiction. In this case, it tells you that at the first decisions that was allowed, it was allowed unconclusively because if it was a plan that, because what here must do, you must do proper planning if you want to achieve a goal. And in this case, you don't have to have gaps if you did it well right from the beginning. But we are having, and we experience these serious gaps because we didn't plan it well right from the day one. And those gaps are serious to us because one, there is element of competitions, which has always been forthcoming. It's not getting to the user on good time. Number two, sometimes you may find that actually there is risk of those investment, but the various number of students are not taken care of. Fourth is that there is this now new element of you don't know even where the grade 8 is going to be taken at this particular time and level. We have a serious issue to do with the laboratories, because the JSC requires that those who attain to that level also has those facilities available. And you realize that most of those institutions or farms that actually, which were approved to take that care, actually, most of them does not have that equipped with those laboratories. So there are serious gaps. It's like we moved with speed and we never prepared ourselves well to catch up with this. And those gaps, if they are not well seated on, then this
concern now is
this imbalance is going to persist.
That the Speaker called a Kamukunji of members of Parliament to discuss education.
Matters education were discussed, but the majority what was discussed in Kamukunji is matters to do with financing. And it was just a matter to do with having reasoning together and bringing together those kitties that actually belongs to what we call bursaries. Instead of governor, MCAs, member of parliament, what we call education, having, and also GAF, having portions of different portion of budget of bursaries. Then the idea to bring the whole kit together was so key to me. But my objective to this is that why can't we realize as a government, because what we are doing is that currently even the university education is going to paralyze because of one thing. We are creating like 3 or 4 clusters. Then you are discriminating the student, because even today we have free education where we have primary education. But let me tell you, if you are strong and able to have your student out of public, then you have an option of private. So therefore, that particular division always strikes itself, and those who depend on public are the ones who feel that's where they belong. Those who feel they belong to private, they do pay. In this particular level of university, we must also carve the same way. Let's allow the demand takes its course. Don't discriminate. Let those who want to retain in public universities be retained there. Give them equal choice. Allow those who feel that actually they are more capable. Use the private.
But my concern, Bona Mutambo, is because you hear Bona Gakuya speak very passionately about this. But does it concern you that the National Assembly is not properly seized of this matter? It is almost at crisis level nationally, that education is not being handled as it should. Surely, there has to be a role that Parliament, or the National Assembly for that matter, can play. They called it Kamukunji, and that was probably where Kenyans felt probably there would be a relief if members of Parliament, our representatives, are discussing education. But they appear to have focused more on CDF and the bursaries and not the larger crisis.
You need to ask yourself the extent of their paycheck, correct? Where and what point can they extend their mandate in matters school or matters education? What can they do legally, apart from offering leadership opinion on what need to be done? The policies are very clear and they are defined on how to develop education sector in our country. They're there, spelled out. We are not missing nothing. The question is, where do we go wrong? Is it in implementation, or is it in actualizing, or that's the same, actualizing what is spelled out and what we need to do? And all the same, it also boils down and it goes down to the leadership, right? And leadership, it combines of so many sectors, not only the president, not only the government. There are so many other leadership in the education sector. So what do we do to make sure that whatever is healing us is cured? Because that is where the problem is. Have we taken education seriously? And if we have, we keep on talking of free education in Kenya. Is it there? Is it really free? That's the question. What do we do to make education free? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. We need to make sure that teachers are paid.
You seem to be excusing the National Assembly on this one.
I'm not seeing any role for the National Assembly when it comes to matters of education in terms of what to do next. The role of National Assembly is to allocate resources, is to make sure that there is enough budgetary process
for example, the security
prosper.
sector was in crisis. Would there be a role for the National Assembly to play? If at all, probably the police service was in crisis.
Yes, it is defined in the Constitution.
Yes.
It is defined in the Constitution that if there is any security crisis in the country, they have steps and procedures which to be followed for members of parliament or for the National Assembly to evoke the section of a Constitution which allows them to do so. Right? So come to education. What can I hold Kaguria when it comes to matters of education, save of passing the budget? What can he do? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. Yes, members of parliament are allocated some CDF fund, okay, which most of that money they use to develop either schools in terms of building classes, where they use that money in terms of giving students a bursary to go to school. But to my thinking is that method, it trickles down now to a defined line whereby when a member of parliament is given bursary, and I was opposing Kakuria, anybody who was supporting me will not get bursary from Kakuria. And that is what's happening in most of the members of parliament. That means now we are infringing the same constitution of discrimination. We will be discriminating people who never supported us, and yet whatever we are sharing out is national resources, and it is meant for everyone, including those who never voted you. So the whole system need to be evaluated and see where the problem is.
All right. Speaking of CDF, on the front page of the People Daily, it says CDF billions for dead projects. The auditor reveals that Kenyans obtained no value for money on projects which are abandoned or had poor workmanship with no cash records. We'll be discussing that after the break. Do start.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Freddie Ndumuli. I'm still in studio with former MP Mwingi Central Joe Mutambu and MP Embakasi North James Gakuya. I want us to move to this discussion which features on the front page of the People Daily. It talks about plunder of CDF. And this is it's a pet subject for members of parliament. Even that Speaker's Kamukunji to discuss matters education ended up discussing bursaries through CDF and other kitties. So they say CDF billions for dead projects. The story is actually on page 7 of the People Daily. A day after Auditor General Nancy Gathungu unearthed massive irregularities in the issuing of bursaries for various constituencies, a detailed analysis of the National Government Constituencies Development Fund, of which MPs play oversight. They say some constituencies reveal how billions in public funds intended to spur development are plundered. The report for the year ending June 2023 shows that there was no value for money in some of the projects. They are either incomplete, have stalled, or had poor workmanship. The report cites the constituencies for initiating projects such as construction of schools, matters education, and paying for low quality work, where some classrooms are even unfinished. Gakui, I'm sure you oversight the Ngcdf in your constituency, Embakasi North. What do you say to this? Because it was part of the discussion, if you take the angle of education that you had, that bring all the CDF bursaries together and probably amalgamate them and fund free education. But it would appear the general management of Ngcdf is the problem.
I would partly agree with the writer of this story because the story might have been based with very isolated cases. Because I am sure that largely, if there is areas of very fast auditing in CDF, every year there is a thorough Auditor General process. In this case, every auditor report comes every year. And this tells you there is nothing much to hide. If auditors has to peruse your procedures, your project every financial year. I would say that not every areas that are capable of doing this, take into consideration maybe the number of officers from that audit office. And also there are areas where we call prone areas like northeastern areas like probably Baringos, where there is issues to do with budgetaries, and where I can tell you for sure, no dollar audit can be done there. It can only be done, and sometimes there is what we call premeditated plans to scare the auditors from auditing those kind of areas, and that's a known case. But I can tell you very authoritatively that if there is a process that is well taken care of, because projects are approved by the committees that are appointed by the process given by the CDF Act, right from the bottom, where member of parliament does not concern. It is through processes of interviews, and the DCCs are the ones and the fund managers entrusted to that processes. Number two is that if projects are people driven, because it is mandatory that you must have people, what we call either ward or constituency public participation, so that they can come up with the project. And that particular committee, it now sits to filter, depending on the number of amount of money that you have for that particular year, which process, project is being prioritized as a number one. And we can be able to learn with how much. Then if that is clear, then they forward the proposals to the board for the board to approve, the national board. And after that, the approval of that board, then the implementation takes charge. And that process is very clear and fair. And let me tell you, the national board has also issues. If you would have done some quotations, because first of all, you must deliver project proposals guided by the costing of those projects. If they have their own consultants for QSs, they always go through those documents. If they feel that this costing is too high, then they put a query on that. And then they invite the CDC so that their QS and their QS can sit and then they can mitigate. That's a process. And I can tell you it is quite due and it's quite in order. I can tell you it's used to do with what we call, it has been alluded to as a project non-complete. Could be issues of finance disbursement, because a contractor, he can commence a project today, do it to a certain stage, then he raises a certificate for payment, and then there's no money available.
Are you saying it is wrong to use the images of MPs because they've used pictures of MPs, your colleagues, when they say CDF billions for dead projects? But in that whole process, you seem not to talk about the MPs. You talk about the committees and the boards. And what is the role of MPs?
It has been...
Should they take the blame?
But it is indicated where over there. Oversight. Otherwise, MP has no direct role to the CDF. But he has mandate to oversight the process.
Okay. Yes. Bwana Mutambo, CDF is very key to members of the National Assembly, despite it still not being right with the Constitution. There's still debate on whether or not it's actually a legal kitty. Now, such a headline, billions in dead projects, because we are in a space as a country where we are now auditing ourselves, even projects being done by the president himself. This appears to have trickled down even to the constituency level. And now the Auditor General comes out with such a report. You've handled CDF yourself. What is your take on this?
Let me tell you this, and I know I'll get a lot of haters after I say this. CDF is a scam. Mm-hmm. It's a scam to many Kenyans. It only benefits the office bearers and their supporters.
The office bearers being MPs?
Being MP, being the people who have been selected. There's a committee selected by people. The way the law is structured is very good. The thought of CDF is very good. The idea is noble idea, right? But now when it comes to implementation, we have a problem. What is the problem? What the law says is not what is being done on the ground. Mm-hmm. You have heard my brother say that members of parliament are only supposed to oversight, which is very true. Because in that whole thing, member of parliament is not part of it, right? They are only patrons of CDF, but they have, legally, they have no role. But on the other way, I mean, if you flip the coin on what is happening on the ground, the member of parliament takes CDF as his own kitty, right? And he will do whatever he wants with it. When it comes to what Mheshimiwa is talking about, the project, the member of parliament will give project to whoever he wishes. Mm-hmm. They don't follow procurement laws, whereby it is it's an open tender, and the farm which wins the tender is the one which is given the job. That is not the case. I can tell you, even in areas which I know and which I also participated, today you will see a member of parliament controlling the CDF to an extent of anything which is being bought. Any material which is being bought. Mm-hmm. And I can give you an example. I'll not give you an example of Kaguya, but I'll give you an example of Mwingi Central, where I come from. It is the member of parliament who supplies the materials to build either schools. If you want to buy an iron sheet, he will tell you where to get it. And if you don't get it from there, your contract is cancelled.
So the poor quality they're talking about here is directly linked to the member of parliament.
Correct. Then number two, when you talk of incomplete projects, there is a conflict of interest. Because a member of parliament who is sitting today, right, he will initiate projects annually. And before we go to election, there is also CDF. And a member of parliament will initiate some projects. So when another one comes in, right, despite the fact that those projects are coded and they are funded accordingly, because we don't, as a member of parliament, you just don't wake up today and say, I'm going to do this. A committee sits prior, and that information is sent to national office for the disbursement and the coding of those projects. Despite that, Kahuya will go, try his best, buy materials, do everything through its contractors. When the other member of parliament comes in, because I've seen it in Mwingi Central, he says all the projects initiated by the former member of parliament.
Are there projects that you initiated that are stalled simply because...
Thousands of them are till today. Thousands of them.
Okay.
So many projects I initiated which were based to help the community. But because I'm the one who did it, the member of parliament who came, because they don't want that credit to go to the former member, they disregard those projects. And they even go ahead and change the project, which, I mean, the funding. They go and reallocate that money to another project. So this becomes a ghost. I can tell you I have several ghost projects in Mwingi Central, which we started, and we even left money in the bank. But when the other member of parliament, the new member of parliament came in, he scrapped those projects and he said he's not going to fund them. Okay. And they are like that until today. So, and I'm sure, thank God, who has been in parliament 2-3 times, so he has a continuity. But where, in an area where, like, where I came from, Mwingi Central, being the new constituency, and with the new project which initiated, when the other member of parliament came, today those projects are still white elephant.
Okay, but Bonagakwe,
I would say the only point where the law that actually guards the CDF is not fair to the public taxpayers' money is transitions. Once you see you have a committee which dies immediately, you exit. And therefore, another one comes in.
Okay.
Then, if there could be a continuity of that sitting committee for a period, I don't think that actually that would have this serious effect, because that committee understands, had the minutes, had that particular care to manage those projects for a long term. But if every member when he because the survival of this committee depends whether the member is coming back or not. But if the member is exited, then the chances are the whole team can go home. I would say in element of transition is where this white project comes in. And this is only because some members has vendetta. And this is the vendetta where we must kill, because if we are managing public resources, you must kill those vendettas that if you come in and you found that I was constructing 3 number of classrooms in school A, and that it was at the level of 90% complete. I think the obvious, if the money, you found the money in the bank, is to finish fast. And this is what I did when I came up. I took a constituency which was hived from the Rajak Embakasi. And I found very many projects that were stagnant. But I did the first charge to complete those projects to the letter.
Okay.
And today I have no single pending ghost project in my constituency. And I cleared all of them. And I think this is what we should buy, all of us. Okay. This problem is a serious problem, even with the governing of the county levels. But when the governor comes in, and you found projects like these mega projects, like probably building of stadium, construction of stadiums, and many other projects like markets, you don't want to complete that project because the candidates will come. That is rubbish. And it is totally nonsense. And we must keep that behavior, so that at least we can see the value of money.
And I think we've got into the crux of the matter, the fact that the managing transitions from one MP to another has proven to be difficult. The headline on the People Daily reads, Ngcdf billions plundered, and our panelists have managed to tell us what the issue is. I want us now to move to the picture of the day, and if my director can help me with it, we do have the picture of President William Ruto and his entourage arriving at the Beijing Capital International Airport in China for the 9th Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit. We're calling it the picture of the day. It is something that we started with on the show. For those who are yet to see it, it's on the front page of the Standard, also on the People Daily. We do have it there, very beautiful photo of the president and his entourage. And this picture says a lot of things. If I may draw my panelists' attention to this picture. This is the first trip outside Africa that President William Ruto has undertaken since the protests in June. I think the only other trip outside Kenya was when he attended Paul Kagame's inauguration in Kigali last month. So after the trip to the US, where his board of transport was highly criticized, this picture shows you clearly how he traveled to China. An image there of the Kenya Airways looking very beautiful, and the pride of Africa. Everything showing so clearly on this picture. Secondly, his entourage. You have the president there, the first lady in tow, and the gentleman right behind, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And the cameraman captured this perfectly, the fact that Raila Odinga is in this entourage. Third thing is a comfort that the president appears to enjoy. He's in casual wear. You see people in suits. And this is a formal welcome for a head of state. The military is out. He's dressed in a casual shirt and jeans and casual shoes. He appears very comfortable in himself, and the fact that he's even traveling outside the country, something that he has not been doing over the past few months. So this indeed is a big thing. And allow me to welcome onto the set Ruth Ambogo, a lawyer, and also a member of the DAP-K party. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
You've missed a huge chunk of our discussion, but we'll
My
pick it up from here.
I had a medical emergency.
Okay.
Yes.
So yes, the president is in China. He traveled there on Sunday to attend China-Africa Cooperation Summit, but part of the agenda is also to market Raila Odinga's bid for the AUC chairperson. This is happening at that level. A number of African leaders will be there, so it is a perfect opportunity for that. But back home, a lot of criticism and a lot of skepticism and pessimism about Raila Odinga's AUC bid. Let's start from there, Ruth.
Yes.
Do you share in that skepticism that is there online, people saying we do not support Raila Odinga's bid, the Djibouti candidate is much stronger, and Raila Odinga will probably not succeed in this bid?
Well, one thing that I must appreciate where the critics are coming from is the disappointment that they are harboring towards Raila Odinga, especially given his involvement, quote unquote, in the just concluded, or I wouldn't say concluded, but in the just done conversations with the young people and what one would call a revolution of the Gen Zs. So his participation and his involvement, especially towards the end when the president called for dialogue and they seemed to have jumped on board as ODM and had their members appointed as cabinet secretaries, caused a lot of discomfort and disappointment amongst very many young people. The people who are expressing criticism, a majority of them are young people who sound very disappointed. But if you look at it, in what ways would this affect Raila Odinga's candidature? I don't think it would affect Raila Odinga's AUC candidature in any way, because we are not voting as a continent. You know, we are not going to the ballot as a continent. This is a conversation amongst heads of states. So it all goes down to what is the level of mobilization, what level of campaign, what level of how are our relations continentally. That is to the extent at which his candidature would be affected. It would not be affected by the opinions of Kenyans per se. But then again, when you look at
including
the standing...
expert opinions?
Come again?
There are expert opinions that say that Kenya's standing even in the continent.
That is what I was actually getting to. I was getting to the point that the standing that our country has continentally at this particular moment is what would affect Raila Odinga's candidature. You know, just before the young people took to the streets, the president, because the thing is, the country that produces the candidate has the responsibility of campaigning for that particular candidate that they produce as a candidate for the AUC. So that means the head of state of that particular country is pretty much the one who will be the chief campaigner for the person that is, you know, coming out of the country as a candidate. So in this case, the president will be the chief campaigner for Raila Odinga. But then I'm looking at it in terms of the president standing continentally. You know, just before the young people's conversations and demonstrations, the president had actually established a pretty strong image out there, continentally speaking. You had so many people speaking very positively about him. If you had the privilege, or if you've had the privilege of traveling outside Kenya and to African countries just before the young people's conversation, you'd see there was a lot of admiration that other countries had for our president. And I would understand why they had that admiration. I think it was coming from a very serious point of ignorance of what was happening in the country. Because I remember one time I went to Zambia and the people there were speaking very highly of our president. And I kept asking them, do you people really know what you're talking about? You know, it is only the wearer of the shoe that knows where the shoe is pinching. And we were having a sort of like a continental forum where we had people coming from different countries. And at one point when we were sitting just having lunch, they were all praising our president. He's a Pan-Africanist. He's doing big things for your country. And I kept telling them, we come from Kenya and we know what is happening. So I think now after the young people's conversation, so many of them kept reaching out and asking what exactly happened. And I kept reminding them, remember I actually told you, you people are speaking from a point of ignorance. So at this particular point, the image of our president continentally has shifted. People are looking at it in terms of, you know, if young people are going to the streets and this is how you are treating young people, this portrays you as a totally different person from the person that we thought you were. So how will this affect Raila Odinga's campaign? Is he still in good books with the other African presidents? Because then again, remember, the relationship between presidents is very different. As your people might be, as people from, for example, Zambia might be having a different perspective about our president today. We don't know what relationship our president has with the president of Zambia.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Bwana Mutambu, if you look at the papers today, there are different angles to this. On one hand, the Daily Nation talks about Uhuru's role in Raila's AUC campaigns. Finally, his office, the office of the retired president, came out yesterday and declared that, yes, former President Uhuru Kenyatta supports ex-Prime Minister Raila Odinga's quest to become African Union Commission chairperson. Many people doubted Uhuru Kenyatta's position. The other angle is ODM, saying our terms to support Ruto's re-election bid come 2027 is predicated on Raila Odinga's success at the AU. And they say if Raila clinches the chairmanship of the African Union Commission, then ODM will strike a 2027 political deal with Ruto. This is a huge deal for Kenya, yes? The president, immediately after launching the official bid last week on Tuesday, he went to Nyanza province, to Nyanza region, and many people said that it would appear that that was the only need for the president. But now he's going to China with Raila Odinga.
The whole thing is very tricky. One, when it comes to AU position, that is a national issue, right? And it doesn't matter who is the candidate. All of us as Kenyans, we are obliged to give that thing a push. It is like when we have, allow me to use tribes, a Kalenjin running for a marathon outside. All Kenyans are united in supporting that candidate. And when we lose, we all get disappointed as a nation. Once we win, we all celebrate as a nation. That has got nothing to do with the DAPK, has got nothing to do with WIPA, has got nothing to do with the ODM. It's a national issue. So, Uhuru Kenyatta, Joe Mutambu, Idimuli, and whoever, whether you like Raila or not, like she has said, it is not our call to elect Raila. It is the call of the heads of state. So you go back again, you draw back and ask yourself, how many heads of states or how many nations are participating in this whole exercise? And how many are supporting our candidate? So if there is a question from ODM that our support for Raila, for Ruto 2027, is based or is pegged on the outcome of the AU election. Ruto, being a smart person, and as he walks boldly there, taking those steps, he knows the fate of his candidate. But because there is a catch somewhere, he wants to give a picture, to paint a picture that I am supporting Raila. So back home, any support of Raila should or must support my initiative because I am with them. But back in his mind, which I know there is a lot of space, he knows very well the fate of Raila. And he cannot purport to wait until the ballot is cast. From where he sits, because I know, and he knows, and every intelligent person knows what is the fate of Raila in AU.
You know the fate of Raila at the
Of course, but it's not subject for discussion today. But I know what will happen. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. Mm-hmm. You just need to evaluate the countries who are supporting Raila and the countries who. It's very easy. I have been participating in the football elections, and in the football election, you can predict who is the next chair without even going to the ballot. Mm-hmm. You don't need to go to the ballot if you are smart enough to know who is the next chairman. It's like the mayoral elections. Then Gagure was a councillor. He will tell you, even before they cast the ballot, they know who is their mayor.
So, do you think ODM will have a deal with the...
This is a delegate system. And the delegate system sometimes is obvious. Because you know your numbers. And your numbers don't lie. In this case, we have a very serious case. Because we have two areas of concern that has to determine the winner. One is religion. It will be either Islamic or Christian. Number two is language barrier. Either French or Britain. Then you have to assess who has the majority. The majority are France. They command 29.
I don't think...
And let me finish my discussion. Those critical areas tells you, if it is France today, it must fight to the nail to make sure it captures. It may or it may not. It does not mean that even in our East African region, we don't have those French allied countries like Rwanda, Burundi, and DRC. They might decide at the ballot to support our team. So the game is like that. Then you need to know, within these barriers, how do you craft yourself to cross the support from that head to this head?
Are you certain as...
But in this particular case, there is no way you are going to escape these two areas of concern. Djibouti, I believe, I don't know whether it's a Muslim, but actually, it has to be a battle between the region and number two, this language barrier.
Are you certain as Bwana Mutambu that the fate is clear at this point?
It is not.
Exactly.
It's not.
Okay. No, actually, I was just about to, I was wondering which, he started off by almost asserting that the fate is sealed, but then I like the fact that he's come to the point where he's saying it is not, because this is politics. Even just like as he's mentioned that football, you would know who is the certain winner. Politics is politics, and somebody can pull a serious card, beneath you the very last minute. The one thing that we need to appreciate is Raila's contribution to first of all, our nation's politics, Raila's contribution towards changes in our country that we celebrate until today. And we appreciate that he's somebody who actually does have the capacity to be able to bring together nations to even vote for him. Remember, he's somebody who, even on his own, he actually has friends continentally. Anytime he's vying for elections, you see presidents, heads of state, former heads of state from other countries coming to support his bid very strongly, even though he has not succeeded in the past. But then we would want to see how he can leverage on some of the friendships that he has kept in the past to be able to support his bid. I mean, nationally, our politics aside, he is a son of the soil. We must support his endeavors. We believe in him. We know that if given the chance to lead at the continental level, he would bring about the much needed change. So I would urge the young people who are currently on because remember, Kenyans are known to be serious keyboard we are very serious keyboard warriors, and we can actually get word out there to other countries and probably influence in a particular way the image that our son holds continentally. So I think there comes a time when the nation comes first. There comes a time when the interests of the country comes first, and this is that time. Even though I am in DAP and we have pretty much distanced ourselves from the politics of Azimio politics and the coalition that we once had, this is not the time for me to start saying, because our party leaders, our leadership does not agree with the politics of Raila Odinga, you would not find our leaders talking negatively about Raila. If anything, the day he was being officially unveiled to vie for the seat and being given the blessings of the country and the president, we held a different press conference. Our party leaders, Eugene Omalwa, Kalonzo Musyoka, and the rest held a press conference wishing Raila very well. So I think as a country, let's get to the point where we put aside politics and fight for what is best for our country.
Mutambu, let me flip the question now. Now that ODM says their support for William Ruto come 2027 will be pegged on this election at the AU, so do you think ODM will support Ruto come 2027?
No.
Okay.
I don't have to think twice.
Okay.
They will not.
Okay. We do have the answer now.
They will not. And let me also say something. It's very important to understand that as we sit today, we cannot wish this thought away, that Raila is a Kenyan's candidate. So there's nobody who is wishing Raila anything bad or not to succeed. We are all wishing him well. But ignorance is not a defense, right? I will not sit pretty and say, I am 100% sure that I'm sending Gaguya to go and run against Usain Bolt. And because Kagwe is a Kenyan and is a good friend, he will win. So what I'm saying, I did not say that Raila will lose, okay? And I did not say he will win. What I'm saying is that I know the matrix out there. I'm a traveler and I travel in many countries, okay? And I can pick what is the mood of this nation and what is the attitude of this nation against us, towards us. What is their attitude towards us? And we need, history tells us a lot of things. We had Uhuru Kenyatta, a sitting president with his candidate, okay, Amina Mohamed. And I was in that government then. And everything which was being done, I know. And I know where we went wrong. I mean, I know how we lost that seat. And history is very judgeable, okay? So something, I don't know, want to say what, but the same thing, like what happened, may repeat itself. And let us not cheat ourselves that my friendship with Ugandans, my friendship with Kenyans, as a Kenyan, with Tanzanian, can sway the thinking of the head of state. You will be shocked. The way we were shocked that some of East Africa countries never voted for us during the last election. They went the other direction. Those who we thought are the first to cast their ballot on our favor. Did they do that? But when we're analyzing these things out there, the mistake we do is to think that, like what Mandela said, that the enemy of your enemy should be my enemy. That is not the case. That is not the case. So my concern is now when we come to this red tape laid by ODM, saying if Raila does not win this election, then our support for Ruto, we may vary. The answer is, even when these guys went for this come we stay, as Junet called it, all right? This come we stay thing, they know very well in their mind that they want to build their structures. And what I don't understand, and what I cannot believe up to today, is that a very brilliant person, politician, a political genius, by the name William Samoei Ruto, could not see that this is a trap. And because he wanted to have peace and to have for the country to calm down, which begs another question. Who was in charge of these demonstrations? Was it ODM or was it Gen Zs? Who was demonstrating in the street? Okay? And who took over the fruits of demonstration? Who is enjoying them now? Is it Gen Zs, or is it the people who went to the street, or is it another harm or another sector? So they knew that once they push the government, like they have always done with the last four regimes. Raila pushed Moi, he pushed Kibaki, he pushed Uhuru, and he has no shame to push Ruto, because that is what he does best. So what I don't understand, and I cannot get it up to now, is that a political genius like Ruto could not see that coming.
But he seems to be enjoying quite some comfort. Look at
you
the president
enjoy
here.
Now. Let me tell you, there are some things.
He's just come from Nyanza and he was received quite...
That's what happens. That's how Uhuru was treated. That's how Uhuru was received. That's how Kenyatta was received. That's how Moi was received. That's not something new.
There's comfort here, definitely.
It's short-lived.
William Ruto appears to have actually come out on top of this one.
What I would like to be very categorical in this one, it is a catch-catch situation, because Ruto has to do all his best, a vigorous campaign to make sure Raila secures the AU seat. Otherwise, we get to that. The statement that is today issued by the ODM will start, because either Raila is as an AU chair or he contests for presidency 2027. So if he's not in AU, then he's his opponent. And then the mandate will die at the end of your term. That's a signal. So Ruto has no choice but to do it to extreme to make sure that in fact Raila captures the seat. Otherwise, failure to that, the grip that actually he's expecting to reap from Nyanza, we will drain. And that's a correct position.
Do you see?
Because there is nothing much William will secure from Nyanza, because the Nyanza base, if Raila will be in the ballot.
Okay. Ruth, what's your take on that?
Well, for me, in my opinion, in as much as it looks like the president is having a good time, he's going to Nyanza and these people are welcoming him, at the end of the day, we must remember where we were coming from. Where were we coming from? We were coming from a point where people were disgruntled by government's actions. People were disgruntled by the high cost of living. So in as much as you'd have a community of people who support the one person that is now under your fold, supporting you and welcoming you, if you don't do anything about the things that got people to the streets in the first place, then my friend, the joy that you're experiencing, the love that you're experiencing will be very short-lived, and I agree with him. It will get to a point where the very same people will sit down and at the end of the day ask themselves tough questions, such as, fine, we say we are in government. Who exactly is in government? Because right now, the conversation in Nyanza is that we are in government. But then when the reality hits the ground that, for example, if the president doesn't change his mode of operation, if the president doesn't change and revolutionize the way things are done in the country, if the president doesn't address the issues that got people to the streets in the first place, issues such as the high cost of living, issues such as the burden of taxation, issues such as the over expenditure in government, issues such as, the unnecessary offices that were there or are still there right now that led to, high expenditure and again, contributing to the high cost of living. If those issues are not addressed, the very same people who are welcoming him today will peddle stones at him a few months from now. Don't forget that the president, right after being elected, continued with going to meet the people tours. He was doing them in Mount Kenya regions. He was doing them in his backyard, and he never used to visit the Nyanza region. If he did, he would go just once in a while, and the reception was not as good as it is right now. Right now, can the president comfortably go to Mount Kenya and hold the rallies that he's holding in Nyanza right now? Can he do that? That's a question that he needs to ask himself, And he needs to ask himself, can he comfortably go to the rest of the country and receive the same reception? If the answer is no, then he needs to know that the love he's receiving from the Nyanza people is very short-lived. These people will sit down and ask themselves, are we truly in government? Who is in government? And they will get to the answer that they only have Opiyo Wandayi there, who is serving probably his own personal interest. Because when Opiyo Wandayi gets his salary, he is not going to distribute his salary to the people of Nyanza. John Mbadi is sitting in office, yes, but they will ask themselves questions such as, okay, fine, he is in office. How is that benefiting us as a people? If they don't see the benefits of the very same people who are welcoming the president with open arms will turn against him. And I will tell you something. I know Raila very well. Raila wants to retain his base. Raila is somebody who, has built his political base for quite a long period of time, and there is no way he will just let it go and say, okay, fine, in 2027, we are abandoning everything else and supporting the president. Because what will happen to his political base is that he will be donating his political base to a totally different person than himself. So I predict a future where in 2026, towards the end of 2026, and we can come back here and remember these words, Raila Odinga will bolt out of government, and he will be the very first person to tell us how when he was there, he saw the excesses of government, he saw the corruption, and he is now fighting against that very government. I can promise you, 2026 December, he will come out of that government. Despite whether he's in AU or not, his people will come out of that government and tell the people.
You don't see them lasting to 2027?
I do not see Raila existing in that government.
Even the CSS?
Past 2026. Even those CSS, they will be under instructions that, 2027, muko inje. We are forming our own government.
Mutambu, do you agree with that prediction?
100%. Let me tell you, who is Raila? You may not know who is Raila. Raila is a person who lives present, today. Okay?
Tomorrow will sort itself.
Tomorrow will sort itself. And Raila will do anything for his people to gain that particular moment. And I support that because, you live for today. Tomorrow is something else. Right? The life you have today is what you fight for. And that is who Raila is, as opposed to the other leaders. Raila will join the government to make sure that its people are comfortable. And its region is getting whatever you want. And good example, how many seats did Raila get? 4, right? For cabinet. How many did he give to his people? 2. Then in the row one in Mombasa, and another one in Western.
There's also one in Turkana.
That is Turkana now, that one, okay? Whereby there is also Meru, there is also Kamba, there is also I don't know where, who fought and stood with Raila. Kalonzo stood with Raila since, I don't know, 3 terms. That is 15 years, right? Did Raila give anything to Kalonzo and tell him, bring me somebody from Ukambani? I give him something.
Even there is Kisinyasa.
Even Kisinyasa. He never. He gave his people. And Raila will do that today and tomorrow. And the day after tomorrow, when the election is called, Raila will be on the other side. And he'll tell you, you know what, my friend, is this the first coalition of Raila? Mm-hmm. This is not the first one. And what happens at the end of the day? He jumps the ship very, very quickly. And let me tell you, let me surprise you. Because you are talking of ODM supporting Ruto when Raila wins. Raila win, Raila don't win, they will not support him. It is just take an example of Gor Mahia. They win, they will store thrones. They lose, they store. So that's the behavior of the characters we are addressing. That is what will happen. I am not seeing Raila not vying for the...
You want to rebut...
yes, there's a statement I do not like. He is a leader and he knows stereotyping an entire group of people who seem to be associated with a particular community is a very wrong notion, and we cannot be in this day and age and do that. We have seen in this day and age, we have seen, for example, during the demonstrations, we've seen people from different communities during these demonstrations throwing stones and burning, business buildings that belong to businessmen in Nairobi during these demonstrations. It was not even a particular community. During these demonstrations, as a Kenyan who thinks, you should have seen for yourself that for once, people from a particular community that are used to being seen as the ones demonstrating were not on the streets. But what ended up happening, we still had businesses being burnt down. We still had people being injured during the demonstrations. We still had people being stolen from. So I think we are beyond that age. I agree with everything else he has said. But to getting to that point where we say, oh, the supporters of this particular outfit, whom we all know come from a particular, majority of them come from a particular community or are used to throwing stones whether they win or lose. Please, we cannot get to that particular point because goons are just goons and goons know no tribes, goons know no affiliations. We must get to the point where we address issues as they are as opposed to stereotyping particular groups of people. I mean, the young people have proven to us during the last demonstrations that we can actually unite as a country and fight for a common agenda without saying that, oh, this we are coming from this group of tribe, we are coming from this group. We can unite and actually fight for a common goal. So I do believe even in our arguments as leaders, we must dissociate from calling out particular tribes, stereotyping them, labeling them, because if we continue with that trajectory, I mean, where are we going? Okay. We hope that as a country we are moving forward to boundaries and dealing with such issues.
Fair enough. Do you want to
I want to clarify. I did not mean that it is Luos. All right? Gor Mahia is not supported by Luos. I am a supporter of Gor Mahia. Okay. Right? So if we believe in a cause, because our politics in this country is like a cult. Those who believe in this cult, this is how they behave in this manner. And for a recap on that, when Ruto joined hands with Raila, and Raila has a base, okay, and he has supporters. Why did he go and celebrate in Ukambani? He chose a particular area to go and have this thing wrapped up. Where did he go? So when we preach water and drink wine, what do we mean? We need to call it as it is, that Ruto joins hands with this particular group. If he joins hands with a party, because I believe a party should be national, you have a choice to go and celebrate it in Murang'a, because they are members of that party in that area. Okay. But the moment you take it to the home turf, okay, what are you showing the Kenyans?
The deputy president also received quite some interesting reception in Nyanza. Okay. Many people had not expected that to happen. Many people actually were hoping to use that platform to demean the deputy president. It did not go their way. What is your take on that?
One, let me say that, in fact, the reception to me, it was not a surprise. Considering that Gachagua pronounced himself during that particular key celebration or launching of that campaign, that actually, since the former president acknowledged that Raila is not a bad man, and then Ruto has proved the same, then who is Gachagua? Then to keep fighting Raila. Yeah. And then he declared that actually he's on the support. Yeah. And this statement by itself it gives you a serious backing there at home, because it means he's not a rebellion to the occasion. And I hope, I believe at this particular point in time, Gachagua conducted himself well, and he fitted to the shoes, because everybody else could have imagining Gachagua will rebel completely to accept the outcomes of the Babak brought in. But actually, he bought the idea. It was very, very cool on it. Either wholeheartedly, or we cannot.
You see, this is why I don't get popular with other people. Because me, I say it as it is. You know, cosmetic politics, where we deceive Kenyans. If you are a surgeon, and you take Gachagua and you open his heart, the what is spoke there, and what is in his heart. Any stupid person will tell you that was a political statement because he was in Nyanza. Okay? Or because now he's the deputy president and his boss is doing what he don't like, but he has no choice but to support his boss. But deep in his heart, maybe he's not bold enough and tell his boss, you know what? I cannot take this. But because he wants to be in that position, he will tell Kenyans, this is what I'm supporting, but back in his heart, I don't think, this is my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. I don't think Gachagua meant what he said. He said it for convenience, because this is what his boss is doing, and he has no...
But it's good politics for him.
No, it is not good. Because you are lying to people. Tomorrow you'll come and say something else. And that's why you guys...
Politicians are not...
Media, you are out there. Let me finish my point. Media, you are out there telling people...
Let us protect those figures that are not here. Because they cannot respond for themselves. And let that not judge people on their pages, on their covers. Because in this particular case, the pronouns came from somebody's bottom of his heart.
But how can we assess?
And let me tell you.
How can we assess that?
Now, let me tell you. It's upon you to interpret me, whatever you want.
Okay.
You may interpret that actually I am just playing PL or otherwise. But I also believe that this is not the first time. Even Gachagua himself has met with Baba. And we have seen them in South Africa, meeting in an event there. And actually, they were on a jovial discussion. So I don't think that Gachagua is in the longer enemy for Raila.
Okay.
Yes. No, I think Gachagua was a cornered man. Just before these appointments of cabinet secretaries and the joining of ODM into government, the merging of ODM into government, because that is my point. I strongly believe ODM is in government, even though they deny the same. Before this joining of ODM into government, Gachagua was a man whose political life was literally coming to an end. There were rumors, and you know, they say...
But he was never in a siege.
In the political circles, if it is rumored, it is probably true, just like it is being rumored right now that Sakaja's political life is on the line. So Gachagua's political life was on the line. And at that particular point, he had very few options. Remember, his people were already being ousted out of that UDA. Look at former Senator Cleophas Malala, the former SG. Former SG was ousted from UDA, let's be honest, because of his association with Gachagua. And Gachagua was already sort of, getting out, slowly getting out and wanting to start... by the conversations within his formation, you could see the fights between the elected leaders from Mount Kenya against him, and you could see how things were going. And I always say that if someone is being fought, especially when they're very close to the president, do not even think that people are getting out of their own wish and will to do it. They are probably under instructions from their topmost bosses that, you know what, this is the way to go. Because why would I have a deputy and be comfortable sitting around when my people are fighting him? If the fight is coming from outside,
the majority leader took the podium.
Exactly, and you can see the disrespect both clearly and outrightly being displayed. So the thing is this: if you see that I am the president and my deputy is under fire from people within my camp, do not even mistake it that somebody else is giving them instructions. It is definitely myself giving them instructions. So at this particular point, we must laud Gachagua for being a political animal. One thing I always say about Gachagua is underestimate that man at your own peril. Just the other day, the new acting SG, issued a press conference saying that, you know what, Gachagua should remember that he was just appointed and not elected. We had other options. The fact that these people had options and they still landed on Gachagua, whatever he did to get himself as a deputy president, should prove to you that, number one, this is one person that his political moves should never be underestimated. Number two, him making these statements in Kisumu and receiving the kind of reception he's receiving in Kisumu is something that you cannot wish away. This is somebody whose political future cannot be wished away, because if he can make these political moves at a time when his political life was on the line, and still get himself to rescue himself, to have people who did not like him at all celebrating him, kids who even know who he is, you know, smiling at him and waving at him and greeting him, people from a region that never liked him for his statements about shareholder government, and if you're not a shareholder, you're out of this government, fully embracing him. That is somebody who is a serious political animal, and if he was somebody else, he would have already gone down. In spite of the changes in government, in spite of the warm welcome in Nyanza, he would have gone down, but he's still standing.
The end justifies the means.
You see, any country or any nation which is not stable politically, it cannot be stable economically. And this is where we go wrong as a nation, if we evaluate ourselves. Because we engage in politics of deceit. We deceive our people. We lie to our people. We cheat them. We start a course. And once we move on that direction, and I'll give a very good example. There is what we call One Kenya Alliance, okay? Not One Kenya, the one for Okoa Kenya, something.
Okoa Katiba.
They had a purpose. There was Raila, there was Kalonzo, I don't know, there was Uhuru on that side, and they had seen something is wrong with the current administration. But because the current administration want to rule and want to be there, what did the Ruto do? He had to scuttle that movement. And some people jumped the ship. They abandoned the cause for the nation and went to be with Ruto for their own gain. And they purport to be healing the nation. Whereby they had an idea that this is what we want to do. And when Gen Zs came, actually it was like almost over for Ruto. When they went to Parliament, that day, if they never postponed the trip to State House, if they moved, this thing could have been over. But because Ruto is smart, he scattered them, right? And he stopped what they wanted to do. So Kenyans are still in the same position where they were. What took the Kenyans to the street, it will not be healed because Badi today is the Minister for Finance. It will not be healed because Raila has joined. The same issues, they will still continue. So because they never proceeded with the vision, they abandoned the vision.
Okay.
Likewise, when Gachagua saw there is a problem in the government he's serving, he was not man enough to stand with that to the end. He also had to survive. He said, now I need to survive, so let me now...
Isn't that a bright politician?
He is. He's a brilliant politician.
That is not a good politician.
He's a brilliant politician.
No. That's not brilliant because you are hurting the same people you fight for. What you saw then, and you saw this is not good for my people. When did it become good?
Okay. A minute each for your final remarks, Bonagakuya.
In fact, I am shocked with this. Because one thing, as a politician as he is, and he has his battle at his backyard.
Yes.
At the constituency level, what do you do? At a scenario where he finds that actually his serious opposition is heading to build a lot of liberal against him, what does he do? Him is not run away. It's to find for a mechanism how to scatter the wave. Of course, so that at the end of the day, he can scatter the rebellion, win some of them, and to his back, and then he has assurance of winning the race at the end of the day. In this scenario, I would say, the wisdom Gachagua used is the best politically.
Yes.
Because, do you want to tell me that at this point in time, when now Raila is now at the bed with William, and then Gachagua would have still rebelling out there alone in the court, that would be a decision made by a foolish politician. Okay. But a wise politician, when things goes worse, then you need to think, where are you heading and where are you taking your people? And let me tell you, you strike a decision, then let me die in the cause.
Okay.
For the purpose of saving your region and your people. And in this particular case, I would say Gachagua came out a winner because he never lost in number of shares.
Okay.
Yeah? No matter whether other interests came in his matrix, he won.
Okay, and I'll postpone your final remarks. I know I told you, so you still get another chance on this issue. Bright, brilliant politician, Gachagua?
No, Gachagua is a very serious political animal. And in fact, personally, my advice to him would be that now that he knows, because he knows the kind of boss he's dealing with, and up until this point, if he's smart enough as I think he is, he should know that the fights to remove him from where he is will not stop. Because remember, there's a new entrant, there's a new shareholder who has joined government, whose interests must be taken care of. And that means that for the interests to be taken care of, to be consistently taken care of, somebody else's interests must be shelved. And Gachagua must know that it is his interests that will be shelved. Because remember, when, for example, when the changes in the cabinet were being made, when the cabinet was fired, the other next viable option to the president was the prime cabinet secretary. And he was made the super cabinet secretary handling all the ministries. Gachagua should have technically taken up that particular role that Musalia was given, but then Musalia was brought on board. So that alone should be an indicator to Gachagua that this government is not yet done with him. If anything, once the dust settles, the celebrations in Nyanza settle, and they are almost settling very soon, the fights, as he has mentioned, the agitation from the citizens is still going to be there. Teachers are currently on strike. Airport workers are on strike. Doctors will soon go back to striking. Pockets of people are still going to strike. Just because it is not an entire group of young people like it was in the past, doesn't mean that things have settled. The fact that different pockets of people are striking should show you that different sections of the country are not happy with how things are being done in the country. So that should show Gachagua that, number one, he needs to pick the right side. The first option I thought Gachagua would have taken, and in fact I even commented about it during the revolutions, was if I was Gachagua, the first thing I would have done when the young people were revolting, if he was truly, he's a smart politician, but a super politician, would have been one who notices that at the end of the day, he will be fought in that UDA. And when they begin to fight you, they will fight you with everything they got, and you will go. So because you know you will go, why don't you stand with the people? A super politician...
Stand against his boss?
A super politician would have just stepped aside and said, you know what, I am supporting the young people. Because remember, when the president issued that very stern press conference, the first one that he did when the young people revolted and occupied parliament, when he called the young people, whatever he called them, and said they will be dealt with, that very harsh statement, Gachagua came and sort of sounded like a father, calming down the country. If I was Gachagua, that moment I would have taken it to stand with the people, because the truth of the matter is this government is not going to work for the people. It will continuously oppress the people. As we speak right now, they are denying the allegations of any people. They are denying, not allegations, the facts of young people missing, the facts of young people being abducted, the facts of young people dying or being killed by excessive use of the police power. Okay. They are denying all that. So meaning